this video I wanted to talk to you about garden hoses. I found them to be very useful for moving water around. I can drag them around and move them to different locations very easily. I can coil them up and put them away, and so I find them to be very useful. I've had to deal with a lot of low quality ones in the past that kind of get hard and inflexible, or they kink just really easily and kind of a nuisance to mess with. And so a friend of mine many years ago recommended a rubber hose, as far as the material it's made out of, rather than a synthetic plastic one, which they tend to, the synthetic ones over time they're nice and supple and flexible at first, but they tend to get harder over the years. And I have a lot of hoses around here that are very inflexible, or the outer covering starts to crack and break down. And so I've had to throw out several hoses that are just, one that just ballooned out, like a big blister on the side and just broke down internally. And that one hit the dumpster because it just wasn't anything I could save really out of it. The whole thing was kind of breaking down, and the other ones, the outer sheath is kind of cracking. But the rubber ones I've had for maybe up to 5 years have held up very nicely, and recommendations from others that they've last for many years without any kind of degrading of the material. So the latex from the trees used to make them holds up very nicely. I had to buy another garden hose here, and I couldn't find the Craftsman ones, so I went to Lowe's and I found this hose here. It has kind of a rough, I don't know if a rough texture, but you can definitely feel the little bumps in there, crisscrossing strings in there. I think it has like brass fittings on here, which are actually fairly nice. They're not too bad. Fairly high quality, the ends that were put on there, some care. But this hose kinks very easily, so I've just kind of gets a kink in it fairly easily. It's a little bit of pull and shuts off the flow there, so definitely not as nice as the Craftsman ones. This is one of the Craftsman ones, so I use this one since this one isn't getting moved around a lot. I have it directly attached to my shed, the water source there. That's the first hose in the line here, 50 foot, and then I have one of the Craftsman ones after that. So you can kind of see the connector difference in here. This is a brass, and this is a steel that's been galvanized. And so the steel ones seem to hold up a little bit better. Depends on the quality. Haven't had too much issues with this particular brass one. With some of the other brass ones are thinner and they don't hold up very well. So the steel seems to hold up nicely. These ribs on here really help it to not kink. There's about 6 different ribs on there. So I think they put some kind of heavy string in the 6 different locations before they cover it with rubber, or impregnate it in the rubber there. But it really does help to keep it from kinking. So these are 3 different washers here that I wanted to talk about real quick. So these 2 are ones that I was able to get like at Home Depot. This is kind of like some kind of synthetic rubber one, quite flexible. Thought, oh yeah, these would be great. Well, they don't last very long. They last maybe a year or so, or a season, before they start to break down, get smashed, deteriorate, and start leaking again. So I think, well, hey, these rounded rubber ones, which kind of a cylinder or toroid or something like that. I think a toroid is the appropriate shape on these, but they're circular in fashion as far as around. They're not flat like this one's flat. Has a flat edge. This is all rounded. Now these don't work any better. They break down too, and I just took this particular one here, which looks brand new and looks totally functional, pulled it out of my, what was it, a watering wand, that I connected to the hose. It was dripping profusely, and tightened it down nice and tight. It didn't help. So I replaced it with one of these that was new, and it cured the problem. So they do work, but they don't work very long. The Craftsman ones, this Craftsman hose here came with, is these white ones here, and they're definitely a harder material. I thought they were nylon or something at first, but they're some other kind of synthetic plastic. So they seem really tough and fairly high quality, and just kind of have to see how long they do last, and maybe they don't last any longer than any of the other ones here. So it's just kind of figuring out which ones might actually work better. So far the white ones seem to be the best, but I'm just going to have to kind of play with them and kind of see, do they really work any better, or they fall apart within a year or two, just like the other ones do. They're, like I said, a harder material, so I'm thinking they're going to hold up better, but that's just an assumption at this point, so I really don't know for sure. So I'm going to try and buy a few more of these, the white ones, and see how well they work in the different hose connections. And it's mainly, the ends, the valves, near the valves is kind of where they get worked the most, and taking them on and off, and removing the watering wand especially, that gets taken on and off all the time. So here's an example of one of the black ones that you normally get, and it's already got a deep groove and crease in there, so it's probably not going to last much longer. So that's just one of the standard soft rubber ones, so they tend to break down really easily in there. So like, something like this where it's on a valve, where I'm taking it off, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a season, and so that's when they tend to start leaking. So this is the Craftsman 25-foot rubber hose. I just got this one last year, and it's very nice for hooking up to a faucet on the side of your house, just something short that you can use to spray off things, wash things off with. Probably a little bit too short for washing the car or something like that, where you need to drag it around. 50-foot would be better for that. But for washing off tools or boots or just small things. And then this is an older one here that I got many years ago. And this is the same, basically identical here. It's a 50-foot one. And this, I'm seeing, this has a black washer in here. They've changed and gone to the white ones now. I don't know let me pull that out of there. See look at that before. So I'm just curious here between them all here. So it's pretty flexible. Yeah, I think it's just the standard low-cost one. This one is definitely stiffer and harder material than this black one was. These are both the originals that came with the Craftsman hoses. I mean, this one actually is held up pretty good. It's not, doesn't have a deep groove in it like the other one that I had bought. Or actually, well, maybe I think that black one actually came with the Melnor valve, so I didn't buy any of them. I just bought the red ones and the other black ones here. So anyway, this one is starting to crack and break down, where this one does have a tiny groove in it, but it's not, there's no sign of cracking or breaking down. So I think this is they switched to a higher quality material. Like I said, you can bend it all the way to there, and until you really get it bent, it just doesn't want, it bounces back and doesn't want to kink. And this is without water. When you have water in there, it really doesn't kink. And bend it around, and those little ribs in there really help it to keep from kinking. So one of the other things that I wanted to mention is how to coil up a hose in a way that it won't become tangled and it won't become twisted very easily. So one of the things that I've learned from even coiling up wires, microphone cables especially, is to do it in a way that you're switching directions. And so as you need to use one hand to kind of rotate it, and then rather than going the same direction, you want to switch directions and kind of do an under. Just flip it up like this, so the inside of the one that you're kind of coiling up to becomes inside like this is. So there's the coil that's here, it was before, the leading end is underneath it, and then the next one you do kind of a rotation, get that nice shape, comes around on the outside, and then the next time you're bringing it up like this underneath, reverse direction, and that keeps it from getting tangled up. So this is just the 25 one demonstrating with, but when you get a lot bigger hoses like the 50 foot or even a 75, I have a couple 75s now, those are very nice, and so you need to coil them up in a way that they're not going to get all twisted, and you have to keep this twist going on the whole time. This way they're nicely coiled, and then you can throw it out very nicely, and they goes completely straight and doesn't get tangled up. So it's basically getting, when you get this long thing, they tend to have to keep rotating the whole hose, where when you coil it up with the backwards coil and a forwards, it kind of goes back and forth, and it never has to keep the hose rotating the whole time. So forward, backwards, forwards, and that creates a nice coil. Anyway, so if you are in the market for a good hose, I highly recommend the Craftsman rubber hoses. I am not sponsored by them, nor have they given me anything for free, so I bought all these hoses all with my own money, and not affiliated with them at all. So anyway, this is kind of my honest opinion, doing a lot of research and recommendations from others. And I also noticed that John Kohler over at growingyourgreens.com, he also recommends the Craftsman rubber hoses as his favorite hose, and I definitely agree. I've looked at all the different hoses in the store. Every time I go in there, I like check over all the hoses, and it's like, yeah, the Craftsman rubber ones are definitely the best ones out there, and they're not overly expensive either. They're lower cost actually than the other cheap rubber, high quality, whatever I want to say. The other rubber hose that I had purchased, that one was more expensive. I think that one was like 35 or something like that, maybe 40 for a 50-foot hose. And the Craftsman ones, I have gotten them as cheap as $25, but they generally are closer to 30, 29, somewhere to $30 for a 50-foot hose. 75s are, I think, 45. I think I paid 45 for the 75 footers. But anyway, that's fairly reasonable for what you're getting, something that will last a very long time. And obviously don't leave them out in all winter long outside. Coil them up, hang them up on ropes in a shed somewhere, get them off the ground, so they can air dry and not be molding or get anything bad happen to them. Protect them. Don't try not to leave them out in the sun if you're just from carelessness. If you need to leave them out there for a week or two, that's fine, but try to take care of them. But they should last you a very long time regardless. All right, well, thanks for watching. God bless. I will be praying for you and your family, and I ask that you would pray for me and my family, that we can grow closer to God. And so be sure to share this video with your friends. Be sure to click that thumbs up. That helps other people to find this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'd love to have you around. Get notified when new videos come out. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.